Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. You know, many have the custom of after Pesach, you wish each other a gesunden Zummer. Could be because, as we know, now it's already spring, and it's getting closer to summer, and the seasons are warmer, etc. The Eibishter set up the world that there are different seasons. There's winter, summer, spring, fall. Each one has its own temperature. There's an interesting statement that Tzemach Tzedek makes in one of his Maimarim. The Tzemach Tzedek says that Nilu kol chachmei hateva, all the scientists are trying to figure out why is there such a climate change? Why is there such a big change in temperature? The sibas hachamimus bekayitz v'hakariros b'chayrev. Why is it warmer, hot in the summer and cold in the winter? And the Tzemach Tzedek goes on to say that it seems to be that being that the sun is so much bigger than the earth, it shouldn't really affect such a change of temperature just by moving a slight drop. And obviously, the Chachmei HaTeva have a lot to say about this, but the Tzemach Tzedek finalizes. He says, "Elazeh ha'inyan meira chidush ha'ashpa me'ayin liyesh l'mayla medarkei HaTeva." He comes to a conclusion that the change of temperatures, winter and summer, is something which is supernatural, which is l'mayla medarkei HaTeva. It's yesh me'ayin. This is a mimer from the Tzemach Tzedek. Now the fact is that being that now we are entering the summer seasons, the warmer seasons, it says in Sfarim that is one of the reasons why we start reading Pirkei Avos on Shabbos Mincha time. Because one of the reasons which is brought is being that it's warmer, people start feeling more free, people start doing more activities that as they were in the winter, they couldn't do, they were locked up, it was too cold, or whatever it was. So we have to sit and dedicate some time to learn in Yonei Midos, in Yonei Musar, because now you're becoming more outgoing, now you're becoming more public, and you have to be aware of what's right and what's wrong. That means, Lemerois, on top, or I should say on top of what the letter of the law is, what the Shulchan Aruch says, there has to be milsa de chasidusa, lifnim mishuras adin. And that is what he keeps on reminding you to learn Pirkei Avos, and it's brought in Svarim that from Pesach until about Shavuos time, you read Pirkei Avos 4 times every Perek. It should really drill into your head what it means to be a mensch in these warm times, because the warmth, the comfortable weather is a Baruch Hashem, very comfortable from one hand. On the other hand, it also brings along nisyonis, and we have to be aware, and we always have to have that in mind. So I want to talk about a couple of dinim. Just obviously these are basics, but these are dinim that you always have to remember. The Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Hashkamas HaBoker quotes Simon Beis, speaks about Tznius, and he says, Midas HaTznius Shibach HaKosov B'Mekaymes Rabbis. The concept, the midah of being modest, the pasuk praises it in many places. V'chachamim tzivu ba l'chol adam liyas tzenua. The Chachamim told us that any person, male or female, there's hilchas tznius for both. They have to be tzenua, modest, b'chol archaisav, in all your actions. V'loy l'hisnaig b'pritzas, don't act b'pritzas. Afilu shaloi b'fnei habriyos, even when nobody's watching. Elo beinoi levein atzmai, where you're privately in your own room. Afilu kshu yechidi b'laylo b'chadrei chadarim, tzarich linhaig b'tznius. You have to always act modest, uboishas, and some being a little shy, because if not, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem malei kol haaretz kavoidei. Hashem is always there. Hashem is always watching. And dark and light is all the same. And the Alter Rebbe gives you the suggestions or the halacha of what's tznius, what are the gedarim of tznius. Now, being that it's also the time where people find more reason to meet and farbring, so I would like to quote another din in Shulchan Aruch. And this, for some reason, we find people are a little easy, and that we have to know if that's the right thing. In Even Ezer, Simin Chaf Aleph, Se'iv Vav, it says like this: Ein shoyalim b'shloim isha klal. For a man to ask how another woman, somebody else's wife, is doing, how is she, is not allowed. B'shloim isha, how is she doing? How is Rachel doing? No. Afilu ayidei shliach, even to send a shliach not directly to her, not asking her straight, it's prohibited. Va'afilu ayidei baila, even to ask her through her with her husband as a shliach, aser l'shliach la divrei shloimim, because she is happily married. To mingle, a married woman should mingle with another man is not tznius, and it's prohibited. It's a offshoot of the problems that could chas v'shalom lead to arayis. Avol mutar lishol lebaila eich shleima. You are allowed to ask Chaim, her husband, tell me, how's your wife? How is she doing? You can't ask the woman, a married woman, how are you? Because that's a problem with the chash arayis. That's a derech chiba. Well, you could ask the husband, how's your wife doing? It might sound extreme, but that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Now, I want to go a step further. And this is where I find that we have to mention, the part that has to be mentioned. Comes the Taz, and the Taz says, Kosav Rashal. The Rashal writes, Olafizeh, therefore, Nagu Heter, it became a common practice that when we write a letter, when you write a letter, an email or a letter, obviously he wasn't talking about an email, Shaparisim Baya Isha, you do send regards to the woman, because that is what's part of Mutter Lisha Lebaila. But Afal Pikein Nagu Lahachmir Shalei Lahaskira Bishma. The Rashal says it's a nice thing to make sure that everybody's healthy, ask how she's doing, ask her husband how she's doing. But even then, you should not mention somebody else's wife by her first name. This is what the Rashal says, not to mention somebody else's wife by her first name. The Kosav Mori V'chamizal, and he says, and my father-in-law, the Bach, writes, Shebetchilas, which means to say that you could write regards to you and to your wife. That you could say, but you cannot say clearly the name of the woman. Again, I'm quoting what it says in Shulchan Aruch and the Paiskim. We find that for some reason people are a little makel in this. Now, the fact that we find that people, even though Shulchan Aruch says Ein Shoyalim B'Shleim Isha Klal, and yet people do this, so that already is brought in the Maram Shik. The Maram Shik says that because Kavanase L'Shem Shemayim, because when you're asking her how she's doing, B'Shleim Isha, you obviously do not have, hopefully, and I hope, and it's obvious, you're not doing it derech chiva, you're doing it l'shem shemayim, then l'shem shemayim, even hishtamshush b'isha, to ask her to do you a favor, sometimes is permitted. That is one teretz the Maram Shik gives. Another teretz he gives, that lisho b'shleima shelo yidei shliach aser. It's to ask her not through a shliach is better than to ask her through a shliach, because through a shliach it becomes more derech chiba. So even though the Shulchan Aruch says Ein Shoyalim B'Shleim Isha Klal, so we found that Teirim, but it doesn't mention anywhere that what the Marshal said, that you should not call a woman by her first name, a married woman by her first name. You don't find anywhere people who clearly say, or Paiskim who clearly say reasons to be matir. Now, the Achrayim, or today's day Svarim, go a step further, and they say you especially have to be careful by relatives. It became common practice as a ganze chasna, a ganze mesiba together, and everybody mingles with the crowd, and these sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws and all this, and it's a problem. Halachically, it's a problem, and they bring from different medrashim that what starts off slowly in ways that are borderline issues with your family, Rahman al could lead to worse in different situations, and this is actually in the first perek. In the first perek in Pirkei Avos is Altar B'Sicha Me'isha, and the Eibishter guarantees us that when we act in the ways of Tznius, and we do that, what the Torah tells us, Hashem will protect us. Shekayach, and please join us again next week.